Now we're going to talk about tape measures. Had a pretzel. Oh, still there. That was delicious. All right, so for tape measures, whenever you're going to work on a job, use the same tape measure for the whole job. Every one is made slightly different, and they're made by machines, so one could be a 32nd or even a 16th difference from another one. If you switch halfway through a job, one person might be measuring and saying it's one length, and the other one saying something else, and they're probably both right, and you're arguing for no reason. So stick with the same tape measure. As far as tape measures, there's two basic types. One, that when you pull out, it goes right back in. If you want it to stay out, you push down on the button, that right here, and that locks it. The other is self-lock, where you pull it out and it stays out until you push the button. When you buy a tape measure, you don't want to go cheap because they use a thinner metal that bends and wrinkles more. So the better, the thicker this metal is, the better it's going to last, the more it's going to hold up. And the further you can pull it out, and it will stay out if you want to go measure something 6-7 feet away from you. Okay. If you try doing that with the cheaper one, after just a couple feet, it will just bend over. Okay. On the ends, there's a little hook. Okay. And there's a little tiny hole in the hook. That is so if you have a nail, you can hook on to the end of a nail. But you will notice on the tape measure that this little metal tab moves on every single one. It doesn't matter which one you get, it all moves. And that's because if you're going to measure over a piece of wood, you're going to pull on this. So they have to account for whether they have to use this thickness of that little tab right there. So right now it's not using it. You pull and you measure. But what if you're going to measure inside of something? Well, if you put this up against here, like the inside of a drawer, now you've got this piece of metal in the way, and that's going to add a 1/16 inch or so to your tape measure, and nobody wants to have to think about that. So what they do is when you push on it, that pushes in. So when you hook, it pulls out, and when you push, it pushes in. That way your tape measure always reads the same. Now let's talk about reading a tape measure. We're going to go over each fraction down to a 1/16 of an inch. So we'll start with this right here. We're going to call this the big, that's another B, the big inch. That looks good. So right here would be what? 0. That's correct. What would this be? 1 inch. So to read a tape measure, if you split 1 inch in half, what will you have? That's right, 1/2 inch. Notice my line is shorter. It's about 1/2, and they do that on tape measures. Okay, now I'm going to split 1/2 inch in half. What do I have? 1/4. Notice that line's a little shorter. So if I have 1/4 here, 1/2 would be how many fourths? 2/4. So if that's 2/4, halfway between 1/2 and 1 inch would be what? 3/4. Now I'm going to split 1/4 in half. So what's half of 1/4? If you can't remember from 7th grade math, we took 1/2, and that was 2/4. So what did we do to that bottom number? You doubled it. So now I'm going to go from fourths, and I'm going to cut that in half. What's my bottom number going to be? An 8. So now, right here would be 1/8. Well, if I split that in half, what would I have? 1/16. So now we can start filling in this pattern. Well, every one of these notches is going to be a 16th. So if this is 1/16, 1/8 is also 2/16. Then next to that would be 3/16. Well, this one's already done, but if it was in 16ths, it would be 4/16. Well, what would 1/2 inch be then? How many 16ths would this be? Right, 8. So we're at 4, we have to get to 8. So we're going to keep dividing it. So what would be next? 5/16. Well, next I have 6/16, but that doesn't sound right. I have 2 even numbers. So what's that going to be? 3/8. And then after that is going to be 7/16. Now we're at 8/16, which is also 1/2. So now we keep filling in here. Well, if we're at 8/16, what's next? 9/16. Then 10/16, but we have 2 even numbers. So that's going to simplify to 5/8. So after 10/16, we will have 11/16. And right here is 3/4. So how many 16ths would that be? Yeah, just shout them out, it's okay. 12/16. And then we would have 13/16. And then next would be 14/16. But notice it's 2 even numbers, so we're going to simplify that to 7/8. And the next would be 15/16. And 1 inch would be 16/16. 8/8, 4/4, 2/2, 1/1. It doesn't matter as long as you put the number over itself. So now let's break this down a different way for you guys to learn it, because that was a lot jumping back and forth. Okay, now I'm going to go over the inch again, but this time instead of jumping back and forth from halves to quarters to 8ths and 16ths, we're going to make this easy for those that have never done this, okay, or if you're just struggling with the fractions. We know that we start at 0 and we're going to 1, but at the end this is going to be 16/16. So we just have to make all those lines. So in here you're going to be making 15 lines from 1/16 all the way to 15/16 here. So we're just going to split this in half. Okay? So we know at half, that's going to be 8/16. I'm not going to write it yet because we're just going to keep splitting it. So now I'm going to split this in half. Okay? So now we've got 3 lines in there. Now I'm going to split all those in half. What we've done is we did 1/2, we did quarters, we've done 8ths. So now we just have to split it in half one more time, and then we'll have enough lines in here to do all of our 16ths. Notice each time I'm making them shorter. And that's exactly what they do on a tape measure. It helps you read. So all your 16ths are the same height, all your 8ths are the same height, your 2/4 are the same height, your 1/2 is all by itself, and then at the end, those are the same. So now, if you were struggling with this, all you have to do is count to 16. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, and then 16. So these are all 16ths. So all I have to do is put a 16 under every one of them. Notice we said 16/16 was the same as 1 inch. That means we have to simplify any of them that aren't in lowest terms. And it's easy because it's every other one. 1/16 is already in lowest terms. Nothing goes into both of those. But 2/16, a 2 goes into both of those. 2 goes into the 2, 1 time. 2 goes into the 16, 8 times. So now that's simplified to 1/8. Next is 3/16. It's in lowest terms. So you'll see that pattern every other one. So now you go to 4/16. So if you go to put a 2 into it, you'll say 2 goes into 4 2 times. 2 goes into 16 8 times. But now there's another 2 that goes into here. Your largest number would have been a 4. So if a 2 goes into this, that gives me 1. And then 2 goes into that 4 times, so it's 1/4. So up here, if we would have said 4 goes into 4 once, 4 goes into 16 once, 1/4. So notice we're simplifying every other one. 5/16, odd number. So now you can see 1, 3, 5, 7, 9, 11, 13, and 15 sixteenths. They don't need simplified. So now we're going to go, here we are, 5/16, so 6/16. 2 goes into both of those. 2 goes into the 6, 3 times. 2 goes into 16, 8 times, you're at 3/8. 7/16, you don't simplify. Next one, 8/16. A 2 will go into it, but so will a 4, but what's the largest number that goes into both? 8. So if you accidentally just use a 2, a 2 goes into there 4 times, 2 goes into there 8 times. So 8/16 and 4/8 are the same number. Then you use a 2 again, you're going to put a 2 into there 2 times, and a 2 into there 4 times. Now you're at 2/4, but they're both even, so you can do that one more time. So 2 goes into there 1 time, and 2 goes into there twice, giving you 1/2. Or way up here, if you would have saw the largest number of 8, 8 goes into here 1 time, and 8 goes into 16 2 times, and you can simplify it in one shot. Next is 9/16. You can't simplify that because you have 3 goes into there and 2, but nothing the same. Then 10/16, 2 goes into both of those. So 2 goes into 10, 5 times, 2 into 16, 8 times. Next is 11/16. Then you have 12/16. You're in a similar situation here. You can do it a couple times. 2 goes into 12, 6 times. 2 goes into 16, 8 times, but now you're not done because they're still even. 2 goes into 6, 3 times. 2 goes into 8, 4 times. You're at 3/4. Or if you would have saw that a 4 goes into both of these. 4 goes into there 3 times. 4 goes into there 4 times. We have one more to do, even though there's 3 numbers, because you have the odd number 13 and 15. The only one left is 14/16. And what goes into both of those? Yes, the 2. But what's the biggest number? 7. But I'm going to write it out, the short one first. 7 goes into there twice. And 7 goes into there. Oh wait, 7 doesn't go into there. It doesn't work. So what are we going to do? Go back to the 2. So 2 goes into the 14 how many times? 7. 2 goes into the 16 how many times? 8. So this one is only 1 time, 7/8. And then you have your 15/16, which is odd, can't do anything, and 16/16 is 1 inch. If you have to start just by writing all the 16ths out and then simplifying them, that's absolutely okay. The goal is eventually for you to be able to start left to right and fill in every one of them simplified. So let me show you, if you get through this, what's a slightly faster way? I'm going to do that next. Okay, now we're going to do a slightly faster way. Instead of writing all the 16ths out and then simplifying, we know that every other 16th doesn't simplify. So all the odd numbers, 1, 3, 5, 7, 9, 11, 13, and 15. So we can fill those in. So the first thing we have to do is get our dashes in here. So remember, you split it in half. Make that one a little bit smaller. Now split this in half on both sides. Now we're at fourths. Now we're going to split those in half. That's our eighths. And our last time now to get 16ths, split each of these in half or draw a shorter line in between every one. Now, instead of writing 1/16, 2/16 all the way across, I'm going to fill in all the 16ths I don't have to simplify right now. So 1/16, skip this one, 3, 5, 7, 9, 11, 13, and 15. So I'm already halfway done, and now I can just write a 16 underneath each of those. Now, the only ones I have to do are the ones that need to be simplified. So if you need to write 2/16 and simplify that, that's absolutely fine. Write 2/16 down, simplify it down to 1/8. Or you can look at our heights here and figure it out and say, okay, when we split this in half, what do we have? 1/2. You can write it up top, you can write it down here, it doesn't matter, whatever fits works for me. So I'll go ahead and just write it right here, 1/2. Well, if I split a half in half, if I had 50 cents of a dollar and I take half of that, I have 25 cents. What's the fraction of a dollar? 1/4. That's right. So this is 1/4. Now, if I split 1/4 in half, remember, double the bottom number, you have 1/8. So just like that, we've got almost all of them done. So now you just have to either remember these, put it in 16ths, and I can say this is 6/16, or I can say, well, if this is 1/8, this is 2/8, this must be 3/8. That's why we made all the lines a certain height. So I know that this is an 1/8. The next time I come to a line the same height, that's an 1/8. So 1, 2, 3. So this would be 4/8. So this would be 5/8. So that means this would be 6/8. But don't let that one confuse you, because you still need to simplify it to, well, if that line is the same height as this line, so it's not an 1/8, it's a 1/4. So you have 1/4, 2/4, so it's 3/4, not 6/8. 3/4. And then you have one more right here. Well, this was our halves, this was our 4ths, that makes this an 8. So we know this is going to be an 8. It's not a 16th because the line's shorter. Well, let's see. 1/8, 2/8, 3/8, 4/8, 5/8, 6/8. So this one must be 7/8. Your final goal then is to be able to start left to right and write 1/16, 1/8, 3/16, 1/4, 5/16, 3/8, straight across. Know them all. The reason for that is when you go to read a tape measure, you don't want to have to count every line. It's okay to do that at first, but eventually you should be able to look at the different sizes and see what they are and memorize them, or just know them. Some of the tape measures will have the fractions on there. That'll help you at first, but eventually you want to go to a tape measure that doesn't have them, so that you can actually know them inside and out. You never want to say to your boss, it's 3 feet, 9 inches, and 3 of those little line thingies. Okay? That's not going to cut it, because I don't know if you're talking about the 16th lines or the 8th lines or whatever. Okay?